Do you actually think all this pomp and ceremony amounts to anything? That's just what Colonel Mason Briggs demanded, right in the center of Wellington Barracks' historic parade ground. But Sergeant Thomas Reed, he didn't debate. He didn't blanch. He didn't even yell. What did happen then? It proved loud and clear that sometimes tradition trumps authority, and this American officer, he was going to learn the value of silence, British style. Curious how a single stare from a quiet soldier left a decorated U.S. colonel speechless? Then don't go anywhere. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. Because trust me, this story is one you'll want to watch till the very end. Let's dive in. The morning after a rainy night in London has a certain feel to it, doesn't it? The air fresh and cutting, the earth still speckled with puddles that caught pieces of gray sky. And Wellington Barracks on that morning resembled a postcard from the past. Walls of stone glimmered as if hands had lovingly polished them. At 8 a.m. on the dot, the familiar rhythm of the military was already reverberating. Boots echoing off stone, voices offaging off walls that were older than whole nations. But there was something more present in the atmosphere that day. A type of silent tension, the type that ripples without speech, particularly when someone new is entering hallowed ground. That person was Colonel Mason Briggs. Now let's be precise, this wasn't any U.S. officer. His chest, a tapestry of ribbons, each one a badge from a combat zone, Iraq, Czech Republic, Afghanistan, multiple tours. His reputation, the sort that causes other soldiers to stand up straighter just because he's in the room. But here's the catch. Colonel Briggs despised ceremony. He referred to it all as dog and pony shows. His personal mantra, respect is earned, not inherited. Sounds hard, even noble, until that notion runs headlong into centuries of tradition, older than the country he hails from. The colonel strode into Wellington Barracks like a man surveying a battlefield. Two aides stood beside him, obviously regretting their life decisions. It all seemed too perfect, too shiny too. Still, is this where the real soldiers take cover when it rains? He grumbled to one aide, half in jest, but half not. And that's when he encountered Sergeant Thomas Reed. Reed was no ordinary soldier, early 30s, tall, standing tall in ceremonial blues that seemed tailor-made by the heavens themselves. But what caught his eye most? His calmness. Not the phony type that results from wanting to impress. This was genuine calm, the kind that stems from deep roots and deeper conviction. Reed had a warrior's blood in his veins. His grandfather stormed Normandy. His father fought in the Falklands. And Reed? He has medals of his own, but he doesn't brag. He has scars, but he doesn't wear them as badges. He's the sort of soldier who's learned repeatedly that the loudest voice isn't always the strongest one. "This is where we defend the Queen's legacy, sir," Reed replied, calm, clear, professional. Colonel Briggs made a scoffing sound. "Hope she's grateful for all the ironing. Your arm looks like starch." Reed didn't blink. He didn't flinch. He simply continued walking. Same consistent pace, hands locked behind his back, spine as straight as a rifle. That was when Briggs began testing him. "Let me guess," he said, halting mid-step. "No talking, no smiling, no thinking, still nothing." Reed never broke rhythm, never reacted, merely moved like clockwork. So Briggs prodded harder. "Tell me, Sergeant, ever carry a real weapon? Or is that bayonet solely for the tourists?" That one hit home. Reed's eyes flicked toward Briggs, just for a moment, then straight ahead again. But that tiny flicker, it rattled Briggs more than any words ever could. Then they entered the officers' gallery. You know the kind. Walls lined with oil paintings and dark wood, brass plaques shining in the sunlight spilling through towering windows. A place so steeped in history, it feels like the walls are whispering stories of the past. Briggs strolled through it like a man passing the time, looking at paintings as if they were on a tour of a dusty museum. "So this is what glory in a frame looks like," he grumbled, pausing at a painting of a Coldstream Guard charging through smoke and confusion. "Good brushstrokes. Ever been in anything like that, Sergeant?" Reed hesitated, not for effect, just to select his words. "2 tours in Helmand, sir. We lost 3 men in one afternoon." Briggs's head swiveled, perhaps anticipating emotion, a fracture in the serenity. "And now you carry rifles as props. Bit of a come-down, isn't it?" Reed glared at him, not in anger, just looked. "We do what we're told, sir. There's no job too low for a soldier." That hit home. Briggs's jaw tightened, barely. A tell. "No disrespect," he stated. And naturally, that meant that disrespect was in the offing. "But where I'm from, a soldier's value is measured in sweat, danger, and results. I've lost men too, but I've never saluted a flag merely because it will look good on television." Reed nodded once, even-tempered, down to earth. Then he gazed again at the painting and spoke softly. In my regiment, sir, we salute the dead, whether the cameras are rolling or not. Briggs blinked. You actually think all this show means something? He asked. The marching? The shine buttons? The quiet? Reed didn't falter. It means everything. To the families who watch. To the nations we stand alongside. To the soldiers buried alone. Without a crowd. Without a name. And that was when something changed. For the first time, Briggs saw it, not as performance, but as purpose. This wasn't a stage. It was holy ground. But he wouldn't admit it. Not yet. And the following day, everything was different. The drill square behind Wellington Barracks. Afternoon sunlight cuts through the gray clouds like God's spotlight. Half a unit of guardsmen at attention. Rifles on shoulders. Boots dropping into perfect synchrony. Tight enough to sound like one great heartbeat. Briggs is present, sunglasses pushed back on his head, arms crossed, watching like a theater critic on opening night. You call this training, he growls. Reed hears, just turns his head a fraction. Discipline is training, Colonel. Mastery is repetition. Briggs shakes his head, advancing. Repetition makes machines, Sergeant. Not men. He stalks across to the marching troops, back straight, turns crisp, rifles shining like chrome. All impeccable. Looks good, Briggs says, but show doesn't win wars. Then it occurs. One of the younger guards, can't be more than 19, gets the slightest thing wrong, almost a half beat behind on his turn. His face flushes, but he maintains his stance. Doesn't break. Briggs pounces on it like a bird of prey. There, you see that? That momentary hesitation kills people in battle. But what Briggs fails to notice is the response. The other guards shift almost immediately, tiny, effortless adjustments that preserve the line intact. Nobody breaks rank. Nobody flails. Because it's not perfection, it's unity. That's something outsiders never get. Reed advances, voice soft but unyielding. This isn't a battlefield, sir. And that wasn't fear. That was recalibration, preserving cohesion. And that's the drill, Briggs mocks. Cohesion? That your term for cosmetic unity? It's our word for staying alive, sir, even on parade. Briggs steps in, close, face to face now. You think I'm here to be impressed by marching and medals? No, sir, Reed says steady. I think you're here to learn that not all strength looks the same. Briggs narrows his eyes. You don't like me much, do you, Sergeant? Reed answers without a blink. I don't have to like you, Colonel. I have to represent this regiment. That's what I'm doing. Briggs leans forward. Then here's an order. Tomorrow morning, you lead the parade circuit. Show me what this tradition really looks like. And try not to blink. When real soldiers are watching, there is a moment of silence. Reed nods. Once. As you wish, sir. But there is something different in his eyes now. Not defiance, not anger, just determination. Because what the American officer doesn't understand is, tomorrow will not be a show, it'll be a lesson. The following morning, cold even for London, that clammy sort of chill that creeps around your bones and won't leave. The sort of cold that makes breath steam, like specters rising from the earth. By 8 a.m., the square is alive. Not with sound, but with presence. Lines of Coldstream Guards stand so precisely aligned, it appears as though someone drew them onto the stone with a ruler. No music yet, only silence and steel. Then you hear it. American boots on British stone. Colonel Briggs steps onto the edge of the square. No clipboard, no notes, just pure scrutiny in motion. His two aides follow behind, but it's apparent. This inspection is his alone. From under the shadowed colonnade, Reed comes out. No overcoat. Only that scarlet tunic buttoned up to the throat. White gloves so clean, they appear buffed by moonlight. He walks the perimeter like he's checking on family before dinner. Briggs leans toward one of his aides. Let's see if he marches as well as he lectures. Then, a sharp whistle, and something incredible begins. I've seen military drills before, but this isn't training. This is poetry written in steel and scarlet. Rifles arc through the air in perfect rhythm. Boots strike the stone like rolling thunder. Every turn, every stop, every wrist snap, time to the heartbeat, and at the heart of it all, Reed. He doesn't yell. He doesn't have to. He owns the moment just by being within it. Briggs stands there in silence. For once, he has nothing to say. 10 perfect minutes elapse. Then one crisp voice slices the morning quiet. Company, halt! And they do, as one. Not a shuffle, not a breath out of rhythm. Reed advances, no smile, no attitude. Just a sharp salute. Briggs angles his head. Impressive drill, he says. But would you maintain formation? Under fire? Reed doesn't flinch. We already have, sir. Afghanistan, Iraq, Bosnia. Every man on this square has been sent out. Briggs motions to the frozen statues standing behind him. And you think that prepares them for this? Reed looks back, then at Briggs. No, sir. That prepares them. For this. This? Ceremony. Stillness. Standing in front of thousands, dignitaries, cameras. Holding the line when your nose itches, your shoulder burns, and your legs numb. Restraint like that isn't ego. It's purpose. Briggs doesn't reply immediately, because suddenly he's seeing it. Not uniforms, not polish, but people. Men who've already proved themselves, in Helmand, in Basra, and yet they're still here, still standing, still silent, still in discipline. Afternoon, guards coming back from rotation at Horse Guards Parade, shoulders sore from the weight of bearskins heavier than some rucksacks, faces rosy from cold wind and duty fulfilled. Reed enters the mess hall, probably believing the day's drama is over. He's mistaken. Briggs is waiting at the back wall. His coffee turned cold. Aides are gone. Only a handful of soldiers remain for late lunch. But tension? It's thick in the air. Got a second, Sergeant? Briggs asks. Reed nods. Of course, sir. Briggs circles slowly, voice low, casual. So, I've been thinking about your culture here. The salutes, the silence, the pageantry. He pauses. Something's shifting. Reed doesn't react. He can't. Not because he doesn't want to, but because the ceremony demands stillness, presence, precision. He becomes a living statue in motion, eyes locked forward, every muscle tethered to duty. Briggs attempts again. Sergeant Reed, he murmurs softly, loud enough only to be heard over rain and beat. Reed catches it. The rulebook dictates acknowledge visually, and so he does, just barely. A flick of his eyes, no more than a quiver, a ripple on a glassy pond. That's all. Enough to register respect, but not enough to break formation. But to Briggs, that look could be a salute, because at that instant, he gets it. It's not about snubbing him. It's about respecting something greater than them both. They arrive at the gates, and the unit stops. Rain pearls on crimson wool, drips off bearskin headgear, sparkles on rifle stocks. Reed gives the order, and the ceremonial turn comes. Synchronized, measured, flawless. Briggs observes, chest tight with something he hadn't anticipated. Humility. Later, when the procession breaks up and the crowd starts to disperse, Briggs moves away from the column. He's wet, chilled, and subdued. A corporal from the embassy extends to him an umbrella, but he shoos it away. Within the guardhouse, Reed takes off his soggy gloves and sets them down gently on a wooden bench. Briggs enters, more sluggish this time, as if a man approaching holy ground. I thought I was here to assess protocol, Briggs says, his voice deeper now. Turns out I was assessing pride. Reed merely nods. Difficult to quantify, sir, but simple to identify. Briggs extends his hand. This time no test, no enticement. Simply a handshake among soldiers. Reed pauses, then accepts it. Tell your men, Briggs says, his grip firm on his hand. They march like warriors. Reed returns his gaze. They are, sir. They just fight in silence now. Reed doesn't blink, doesn't yield an inch. He stands like stone, unyielding, with the weight of each word in his silence. I could have, Reed explains, his voice steady but authoritative. But I didn't, because a nod or a blink would have shattered the silence of that moment, sir. And the dead? They don't require acknowledgement in that sense. They require their silence. Briggs glares at him, eyes tightening. You think I don't know what you were doing? I'm not blind, Sergeant. I do know what tradition is. But you're not in a field, not with bullets whizzing. We're in the middle of a ceremony, a public event. Protocol counts. And protocol, Reed answers slowly, each word measured, was adhered to. Not by me alone, but by every man present there with me. We were standing for the crown, for our dead brethren, not for some diplomatic jig. There's a difference, sir. The room becomes colder, tension building like the air in anticipation of a storm. The civilian of diplomatic nicety glances between them, not sure whether to talk or remain quiet. The adjutant, though, does not blink. He recognizes this game, this fine balance of duty and pride. Briggs looks back at Reed, his jaw clenched, and for a moment, the two men stand locked in an unspoken battle of wills. It's not about pride anymore. It's about something deeper. Something that Briggs, in his world of constant noise and orders, is just beginning to grasp. I don't agree, Briggs says finally, his voice low, but I'll respect it, for now. Reed nods, not in submission, but in understanding that this isn't about winning. It's about what each of them represents. To Reed, it's duty. To Briggs, it's still something he's learning to define. The adjutant leans forward, breaking the moment of silence. Then I'll call this matter closed. There will be no further discussion on the issue, Colonel. You're dismissed. Briggs stands, his actions stiff but precise. He provides no other words to Reed, only a short nod before he turns and exits the room. The door clicks shut behind him, leaving Reed and the adjutant in the silence. Reed stands at attention, but the gravity of the conversation hangs there, an unspoken acceptance of what's been said without any words. The adjutant now speaks, his tone low but supportive. You did good, Sergeant. Discipline before rank. That is the spirit of the Coldstream. Remain committed to that. Reed just nods again, the trace of a nod of thanks in his eyes. No more need be said. The discussion has ended. The line has been drawn. What a resonant conclusion. The manner in which the story builds up to that climactic dialogue between Reed and Briggs perfectly captures the heart of honor, discipline, and strength. Reed's refusal to budge not only validates his commitment to his duty, but also highlights the deep reverence for dead comrades that he embodies. His composure and serenity are eloquent testaments. In contrast with Briggs's aggressiveness, underscores the real meaning of strength, not in boisterous defiance, but in quiet conviction. The adjutant's final words ring so true. It is easy to confuse quiet strength with passivity, but actually it takes much greater courage to stand your ground without resorting to noise or violence. Reed's behavior is a reminder that actual power frequently comes from restraint and respect, not from flaunting one's power. This would certainly be a powerful piece of work, highlighting the value of tradition and discipline when faced with pressures from the outside world. It would be a wonderful message to impart, especially for those who would overlook the values that govern such ceremonial guards.